Tonight's discussion is facilitated through Slido. This is where you can enter your questions for our panelists and live answer polls throughout the event. So yes, please do get out your mobile devices during this evening. Panelists, you too, you're welcome to join in or answer the live polls. If you're watching online, you can add that on the right. And the links are in the chat, but the Slido is at slido.com and your number is 3808493. And Professor Barnett is popping that into the chat right now. So if at home, you will see it. It'll also be on every slide, which is conveniently going to be located at the bottom of the screen where you can't see it. So way to user experience that. High five for me. I'll put it on the top next time. Good times. All right, here's our first Slido of the evening. What city are you in? I mean, obvious for if you're sitting here, but not obvious if you're one of our 100 people that are online. What city are you joining us from? And Mesa coming up is a big winner right there. If you know me, you know I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see any of those things that are being read on the screen. But let's celebrate where everyone is coming from tonight. Our program is lucky to be online and available worldwide. So we have folks joining probably from all over this evening. So an international event, if you wish. All right, looks like the majority of us answering Mesa. So even those folks that are watching from Zoom might be in Mesa. Very interesting. New York, Josh. All right. Phoenix. Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Tempe. Legit. All right, here's our agenda for tonight. It includes 15 minutes of welcoming and acknowledgements, 30 minutes for introductions, and 45 minutes of questions and answers. These are going to come from you, the audience. So in that Slido poll, you have two screens, two tabs. The first one is for questions and answers. You can see the questions that have been asked, and you can vote them up if you like them, and you also would like to hear that. Or you can type in some new questions. And then there'll be the tab that has all the live polls that are going on. And I can see all of the amazing questions coming in right now. So keep them coming in, and I will be addressing them at the end during the questions and answers. This presentation, the links shared and the recording will be sent to all of our participants tomorrow, so it will be available for you to view. Indigenous land acknowledgements do not exist in the past tense or historical context. Colonialism is a current and ongoing process, and we need to build our mindfulness of our present participation. I honor and acknowledge that ASU's campuses reside on the ancestral territories of Indigenous peoples, including the Acamel, Ahodim, and Peepash Indian communities in the Salt River Valley, whose care of these lands and waterways have sustained and nourished our desert homeland. It's important to understand the longstanding history that's brought us to reside in this land of Arizona and to seek to understand our place within that history. If you would like to read the statements that ASU has further on this and explore this topic, Professor Barnett is popping those links in the chat right now. Shout out to Professor Barnett for putting all those links in the chat for us. She will be doing that as soon as she gets it up, actually, online, if you're wondering. Thanks to the Fulton Schools of Engineering Center for sponsoring the event tonight and the wonderful food that we had out front. Thanks so much for doing that. You can find career resources and help at the FSC Career Center website, the link that will be in Zoom quickly, soon, momentarily. Also, thanks to AIGA Poly, the student group of the Professional Organization for Design, for sponsoring the event. You can follow AIGA Poly on Instagram or join them in the GIT workspace, Slack workspace under the club channel. These links can all be found in the Zoom, but you can also buy fresh merch from GIT students. And of course, a very special welcome to our panelists tonight. We have 4 wonderful panelists representing lots of design across Arizona. And first with us on the end is Jennifer Flax, Creative Director at Flax Studio. Next to her is Julian Martinez, Graphic Designer at Riot Hospitality Group. On this opposite end is Unique Yazzie, from a Senior Applications Analyst from PetSmart. And one over from her is Jake, Manager of Product and Design at BrioStack, which also just got bought out by someone, yes, and is also, BrioStack. Here we go. Tonight, as you know, we have lots and lots of design disciplines. Each of you has a different focus within our program, and our guests also have different focuses. You may be interested in working in agency. You may be interested in in-house or being an entrepreneur, and you might have lots of different types of design that you focus in on. Tonight, this is how our panelists will represent you, and when we go back to our Q&A, this will be on the screen so you can direct your question at someone specific if you would like, or at the whole board. That brings us to the next Slido question. Go ahead onto Slido and answer, what is your design specialty? So getting a look at our audience, you just got to look at our panelists and their backgrounds. And this live poll is showing us where our specialties are at in this room. Just gonna slide around because I can't see it. Looks like UX is very popular tonight. 62% front end web, 59% interaction design, print design, illustration, photography, visual marketing, video revolution graphics. Excellent. You can mark more than one evidence, so if you have more than one. Should you have more than one focus? Absolutely not. You can have whatever you want, right? Focus in the conscious of what you're good at and what you're not good at. You don't have to have all of these things to do something. Excellent. Well, you guys clearly not the routine from Jake. Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts on those. We'll include those results in the slides as well. And another one, just to get a pulse on the audience here, is what is your preference in workplace? Would you like to be an entrepreneur, freelance, in-house, or agency? Where do you see yourself working? It's a lot of folks are in-house. You'll know that a lot of our panelists tonight are doing both, 2 or more duties as possible. In-house after agency, excellent. And if you're saying, hey, Professor Karaskia, what does that even mean? Then one, we'll go over it in GIT 432, 532, what those differences mean. But agency means you work for a company that's creative and works for lots of clients, where in-house means you work at a company with their brand and their brand alone, typically. Excellent. And it's now my pleasure to introduce the panelists. Each was handpicked because of their leadership in the industry and their amazing skills. Each panelist will have about 5 minutes to tell you about themselves and the work they do. Starting with Jen Flax. Flax Studio is a full-service design agency. They collaborate with growing companies as an extension of their team, offering work that encompasses the entire spectrum of design, from branding and infographics to reports and digital collateral. Jen.
Yeah, hi. I get to be the guinea pig with the mic. Can you guys hear?
Perfect.
Great. I'm Jen Flax. I'm the founder of Flax Studio. I have a little bit of a unique background. I actually was a theater major, turned investment banker, turned graphic designer, and now agency owner.
Okay, that's a lot.
But yeah, that mix actually, the creative and the analytical, is kind of my superpower as a designer, and it ultimately became a secret sauce for Flax Studio. When we work with our clients to translate a lot of highly technical or academic content and concepts into visuals that are both innovative but also logical and practical. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be hopefully in a room of other analytical thinkers that are interested in the creative and in design. And I'm happy to talk a little bit more about that journey, if it's relevant and we have some questions about it. But we'll jump into a couple of the projects that I wanted to share. As it probably makes sense, we do a lot of infographics, and that's where that combination really comes into play. My first 6 years in design, I worked with the NFL, where sports and statistics kind of go hand in hand. So I got to look at a lot of data and a lot of lists and figure out what the story was and then tell that visually. So that's something we now can offer to our clients as well. Next one.
Well, that's a fun fact in that it's not moving forward. Give me 1 second. There we go.
This one, I wanted to, really loud. This one I wanted to share. This was one of the funnest projects we've gotten to work on recently. Client came to us and they were hosting their first conference back after COVID. They wanted a way for their employees to network as opposed to just standing around and pouring business cards. And so I went back to my sport days and we worked on a project with the NFL with Tots, which is a trading card company. And I thought, how fun would it be to create rookie cards for a bunch of financial professionals? So we created cards for everybody. We included all the professional information that would be helpful for them to share with their colleagues. But then we also added fun facts, we added a fun picture, and the company created a contest out of it. So the more cards that you collected and shared, you got prizes at the end. The other fun thing about this was thinking of the idea of them having this conference more than one time, this being a rookie card. We could remake the card. We created an emblem for the location, so this happened to be in Phoenix. We created a nice little emblem to represent Phoenix that we can machine out each year and redesign each time to create your next round of player card and the next event. And then this last one, actually, I mistakenly sent, not realizing that this weekend was ASU versus USC, so I apologize. But we work with a lot of companies on internal branding, and we work with a department at USC that had a couple of programs that they wanted to brand independently of the college. So it was really fun. We got to take the college brand and stretch it a little bit, expanding the creative. This is something that was more relevant to what each program was doing. And that got really popular. We actually have other departments at the college reach out. We got to do a fun logo series for their med school that tied in logos for veterinary, physical therapy, all the different med programs as well. It's another really fun project.
A little audio issue at the moment, but we'll go ahead and do our next Slido and I'll try to fix it and we'll get back up and running. How do you sketch? How do you like to sketch? Go ahead and answer that Slido question. And I will do my best to fix that. Y'all online, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me really well? All right, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up there. So what I'm going to do is give my mic to the audience and then lurk over whoever's talking when I want to talk. So that should be fun for all of us, really. But since we do have so many folks online, we want to make sure this event is the best for them. So that's what we're going to do. Awesome. Thank you. That's not going to be creepy at all. Everything's going to be great. Looking at our poll for how do you sketch looks like on paper wins. I think 85% on tablets and with silence, 46% on computer, startup reactions, on paper still. Interesting. This is a digital major, so I figure digital is going to be the way that we sketch. All right, I'd like to introduce our next guest. Feels like this is going in and out. Good times. Oops. As a graphic designer, Julian is responsible for creating visually captivating and on-brand marketing materials, including promotional posters, digital graphics, and menu designs to enhance the overall aesthetic and appeal of the group's restaurant and nightlife venues. Julian Martinez.
So yes, my name is Julian. I work mainly in-house and been a lot of my experience. I started off here in Phoenix, in the Kansas degree, and that's where I got my first real graphic design done. Originally from Rain, Colorado. That's where I went to school. I was born and raised in one town. There was a college there that had a graphic design program. Elementary school is a startup engineering. I was not having fun, so luckily an advisor did their job. Design program was starting out, the other using a lot of that programs, and so this might work out. And there. Really nice. So when I started off in the Kansas industry, the biggest problem there was a lot of green, lots of colors, and how do you take that and create a lifestyle and something that is marketable to everybody and not necessarily to the client. So a lot of that was taking the ins and outs of the target that goes into that and trying to kind of dumb it down for a better experience. And that was a really good experience. It was a very small creative team of just me, a graphic designer, and in-house. I learned to do photography, motion graphics, all of it. So I was the only one with a so if you're looking at in-house, I know that's something that addressed that business concept is great. It's more to learn things on the fly. And it was actually a really great experience to learn those things. Now it easy to talk to other departments. When I was you start learning things about different things. Aspects of their job, not everybody knows, so you're ready to find common language. I do a lot of slides in there, so all of them. So part of that experience was also working with photographers and creating magazine ads. I was super excited because the first ad that I made that put into a magazine. Even though it was like photography that I made, I love it. It's great. Set it to print. So that was a really great thing. So I mom like, hey, look at this ad I made. Really nice one. I actually worked for ASU at one point. Worked for the enrollment department, so a lot of the stuff that we sent you guys to get to come here. I had a hand in that. One of my favorite topics, so we're actually working on this with the president. We were writing for COVID. He was going to be in China, and there was a game going on there. There we go.
So after ASU, I left there to work for a company called Rejuvenator, which specializes in e-commerce products for premium like sneaker cleaners. So if you have a pair of Jordans that you're trying to take care of, you want them to last longer. It was e-commerce based. They were looking for a graphic designer. They're actually based here in Phoenix. The creative director was somebody I really wanted to work with. I saw an opening and so went over there. Part of that job was also they were opening a sneaker resale store, and being an in-house designer, you learn things on the fly. So motion design was another part of that. And I got a really good opportunity to flex my design skills and learn some new things and take some photography and create some graphics, motion graphics for social stories and for them to kind of push out. So the image that should be on there is some photography with rotating text going around it, which it was one of my first times opening After Effects, which if any of you guys have ever done that, it's scary.
And it crashes.
It crashes all the time. So on top of social graphics, we need some merchandise as well. Yeah. Oh, no. That's wrong. There we go. So merchandise is something that was a part of that. This was a collaboration project between that sneaker store and another sneaker store that was down the road, and so they wanted to collaborate on a merch project. This was something where I was messing around with a design, and that evolved into this kind of custom hoodie that we turned around in about a week. Had to shoot some photos. Luckily, we had an in-house photographer that was pretty quick on some things, and was turned out some really great photos. It was one of my favorite projects there just because of the turnaround time. And it was completely custom type and collaborated with our junior designer to kind of make a character of sorts to go with it and interact on some of the designs. Part of that job as well is working with the talent that was in-house. That company, Reshoevnator, is kind of known for sneaker cleaner. They have a YouTube channel where their guy Vic kind of does custom shoes and restore shoes. So part of that opportunity was to work with him on coming up with the graphics that go onto his custom shoes. So for this one, it was the customs for all of the Phoenix Suns. So we came up with kind of a cool logo, used their branding, and then we actually used a laser engraver, which I got to operate and engrave all of those designs in each shoe. And then we were able to deliver those, what we thought, to the players, but it wasn't the players. It was just to their practice facility. But it was still a really cool project, which opened the door for me to actually work with the Suns later on. Shoes was a big one. We had found a passion in those, and we were able to work on a lot of cool shoes for NBA players that he would call me up and say, hey, there's this person that's retiring. We're making shoes for them. Can I use your skills? And so I got to use my graphic design skills and relationships to put a piece of art that's going to either go in somebody's closet or go on their shoes at an event. And so that was a really cool opportunity. That also dovetailed into laser engraving is another big part. And I was able to actually be part of them building a shoe from scratch.
We have a screen behind us
All right.
again.
We'll go through quick visuals again, recap for the people that are here. So yes, these are for Sue Storm, WNBA. She played for the Seattle Storm, or Sue Bird, sorry. She played for the Seattle Storm. She was retiring. It was her last game. She was playing the Mercury here, and we were able to take the Seattle Storm colors and some elements and kind of bedazzle part of them and create this really cool shoe. So when I left the Suns, it was to kind of pursue a passion with Riot Hospitality, which was merch. So part of that with Riot Hospitality Group, they own a lot of different brands. So it is one of those rare opportunities as an in-house designer where you kind of get a little bit of both of an agency look and the in-house look because of all of the brands that fall under the Riot Hospitality umbrella. One of those was Riot House, one of their nightclubs. So we were trying to look at for some merch that was a little bit more subdued, nothing crazy. And so we went with a very simple kind of monogram palm trees and did some stitching and wanted to make it kind of very elevated and not anything that's like super graphic tee on the front. And we can go to the next one. Next part of that project was El Jefe, and so it was the same thing. We worked with them as treating them as clients and said, what do you guys want? Any kind of taglines, catchphrases. And so we were able to work with our team internally and use some of the people that actually work at the club itself as talent. So that way we're part of that is the strategy is get everybody involved. They're going to be excited that they're on graphics. They share it. And then hopefully you guys sell out and it's great. You get to move on to the next project. Farm and Craft, this was also a really fun project of working with menu design and photography. I'm not necessarily an illustrator. I do love to draw. They wanted an illustrative look. So we went in something that was, we got to draw some of our signature cocktails and then make it really fun and bright, but also readable. And then promo graphics for all of these things as we push this campaign.
as these are kind of like some freelance things, working with friends. You know how to do logos, you have Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. Some friends hit you up and they want some things. This was for a buddy who wanted to start off with a dried spice brand, and so it was really fun to just be like, all right, like let me help you out. You're trying to start this thing from scratch. Like I'll take trade in some guajillo chilies. And then another buddy, being from Durango, there's some spots that are kind of iconic there for the locals. A friend of mine bought one of those diners and wanted to kind of redo some branding for his green chili, and then also some fun graphics for merchandise. And so we did some illustrations. He wanted this kind of cool bacon guy, and so that was a really fun project to work with friends. So part of your projects, if you're not finding satisfying creative work in-house, is work with your friends, do some cool stuff for them, and then that could lead to a really cool project down the road.
Hi, everyone. My name is Unique Yazi. I am from the Navajo Nation. I am Dene, and moved here in 2000 to begin an amazing career in design. I have been lucky enough to only work in design as far as like the route that I chose. I was also a theater major, so that's kind of how we connect. Not a major, but just kind of experimenting, wanted to be on stage, all that fun stuff. But I currently am a senior application analyst at PetSmart. I'm also a founding member and a co-owner of the Cahokia Social Tech and Art Space. I'm also the founder and strategist behind IndigiDesign Collab. And I also own my own consulting business where I do creative development for various companies and organizations. So go ahead. So what I want to focus on is more about social impact design and the amplification of Indigenous peoples through the design work that I do. A lot of this is data and heavily research based, but for me, it's all about action. It's all about what we do in our communities and how we respond to things that allow us to continue to have our stories told and also to solve problems within certain environments, certain areas that have resources that are not available to everyone. So it's about creating access and allowing things to be open for those people that are marginalized. So for one of the projects that we did is called the Uncontained Mural Project. This allowed a plethora of artists to be able to share their stories in a digital way. And the way that this program was designed was that it rotated with the seasons. And so each artist got a chance to tell a story for a season. What this really meant was that the artists themselves had an opportunity to be very specific about something that had a measurable effect in their life, or they were able to tell their cultural heritage. There's a lot of rules in our culture as far as the 74 nations that exist in the nation. So a lot of these things have certain rules around them where some of these stories could only be told in the wintertime. Some of these stories are only told in certain time frames. So it was really cool to see how it impacted others. And for me as a designer, it was one of those moments where I wanted to design a program that was able to give back not only to our communities, but to the artists that are involved to elevate them as creatives and as designers themselves. Go ahead and go. Oh, there's one created downtown Phoenix as we speak. So it is now in the motions of being completed. So the next thing is really understanding how media plays into our lives. In my background, I've worked for the Arizona Republic Media, and all of their digital platforms. I've also worked for several engineering companies and smaller companies that kind of encompass the industry of downtown Phoenix. And what that really allowed me to do was understand that not only do we have to amplify our stories and our work through arts and the creative fields, we also have to get in touch with media. And so what we did is really built a media platform out of Cahokia, and we built a really strong team that supports this in the way that we bring in the artists, bring in the creatives, bring in the designers, build a program that uplifts them, and then send out press releases and work with the media to be able to get interviews and storytelling involved in mainstream media. So it's like a full-fledged, like, this is how we're going to change the world in this little way. And so you can kind of see how we've been able to collect various tools to be able to talk about what our initiative is, which is creative placekeeping. And creative placekeeping is a mechanism that operates in the same way that creative placemaking operates. It's just more of the maintenance style and the cyclical approach of having a place have their social fabric intact along with the development and process behind it. Go ahead. So this other design project that we had was a mural story that also encompassed a walkthrough exhibit. So we hired about 12 to 15 artists who were able to storytell using their words and do a performance. We also hired dancers and artists and musicians to accompany them. I was I love projection and projection mapping. So I was in charge of the projector and just making sure that all of these stories were amplified with visuals in the background. So not only did you get to walk through an immersive space that led you through the room of understanding the different stages of the monarch butterfly and how that related to the human experience of migration, it also led people into the conversation and the actual engagement of the production. So this was a really cool event. Lots of tears, lots of hugging, lots of emotions in that one. I was also part of the team that helped install and paint the NFL Super Bowl mural. It is the largest mural installment in downtown Phoenix. This is also going to be a landmark, is what the city really wanted this. They want this to be up for eons of time. So we were able to collaborate with multiple Indigenous artists. And what I brought to the table was my design skills, my analytical skills, my staging, and my collaboration skills. And it was really just understand, again, breaking out my projectors and wanting to do something that allowed us to draw and sketch out on this giant wall and then trace it and then treat it like a giant coloring book. And so we had 6 artists on this wall and we finished it in 21 days. So amazing feat, just understanding what it means to go through a design process and a creative process and being able to gather that. And then at the end of it, have the media pay attention to it and understand our story. So again, it goes back to really designing systems that have some form of social impact at the very end. I was also part of the team, and that's actually how I know Julian, is the team that designed the Originative logo, which was the campaign that supported Indigenous communities through the Phoenix Suns. What they did is they really built around the jersey design, around the court area, all the colors and all the context that they brought into that, I want to say, honoring of Native really resonated with Cahokia, and we were able to give them a suite to be able to design their the city edition of their marketing release. And so with this team, we were also able to bring in other Indigenous artists and utilize their skill sets in the ways of illustration and, marketing design. And then obviously I love typography. So that's one of my favorite things, is incorporating typography in anything that I do. And so this is a font that was specially made for Cahokia, but we also gifted to the Phoenix Suns. So it was a really cool project, and I'm really, really proud.
Hi, my name is Unique Yazi. I'm a local designer in downtown Phoenix.
You can let it play. Yeah. Okay.
From the Navajo Nation. So I've been in the design industry for a little bit over 20 years now. I moved out from the Navajo Nation wanting to create impact for my community, and the way that I saw that I could do it is through design work. Me as a designer working with the Phoenix Suns, I wanted to create a t-shirt that represented our community in a way that brought vibrancy and story to the forefront. As you look through the t-shirt, there's little symbolisms that I put in the design. There's different markings that you can see that replicate in different textiles in different communities. So really this design work was something for me to be able to express myself through the colors, through the shaping, and through the modern way that we live as Indigenous people.
Yeah. So that was a little clip from the release of the t-shirt that I was able to collaborate with the Phoenix Suns for. Each of these designers had an opportunity to collaborate in various ways with Phoenix Suns, which really just brought to home what the Suns' main goal was to honor and respect those stories. And so obviously hiring Indigenous designers to roll it out really contribute to that. Go to the next one. I'd like to invite you guys to my talking session, which I'll dive into more of these discussions and these stories, but also inviting some of the creatives that I've been able to collaborate with within Cahokia. And this is the time frame, and it's called culture shifting design. Again, when we start designing things with the form of social impact at the end, really understanding that human-centered design is really what's going to heal our futures for our future generation to be able to survive and live and have all the resources that we are so privileged to have. Really understanding that you all, when you enter the field of design, you have that power to do that. So design for good and design for people and design for that human-centered approach. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna actually try and pin this. I'm gonna try it. Yeah, it's so official. Cool. Thumbs up. Can you guys hear me online? In-house? You guys good? All right. So I'm Jake Sexton. I am an Arizona native. I, like many of you, came from a GIT program. So I graduated from the GIT program at ASU back when it was at Poly. We're at the Polytech campus. When it was here, and fully here back in 2013. I currently work for a company called BrioStack. We are part of a larger organization called EverCommerce. EverCommerce provides software solutions for companies from everything from plumbing to hospitals and everything in between, gyms. We have 3 sections. We've got EverPro, which is services. We call it field management, field service management. There's EverHealth, which is your hospitals and emergency cares. And then there's EverWell, which is gyms, massage, all sorts of stuff like that, salons. Absolutely love, oh, we pushed too far. I'll talk about this. It's ugly, I know. But I love my job. At BrioStack, it's great. I'm the manager of product and design there, which means that I oversee a team that's design and product management. If you don't know what a product manager is, it's different than a project manager. So you should go look it up. Awesome career path if you haven't looked into it. My designer and my product manager are phenomenal. We get to work with other pieces of the organization and other product teams, which means that we have a lot of backing and we have a lot of resources to learn and to move forward. And it's great for me because my favorite part about my job is being able to see the people I manage thrive, being able to see my designer grow and to be able to reach her full potential. Same thing for everybody I work with, being able to watch developers work and reach that full potential and learn a ton. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and I get to do that. I also get to work from home, which is phenomenal. I get to see my kid and my wife all the time, and I am one of those people who loves it. Not a lot of people can dig it. I do get friends asking why and if I miss the socialization, but we've created a great environment at EverCommerce. It's a global company. There are people on my team from Guatemala, and it means that I can travel. I can go to Colorado and go visit family and stuff. So I started my career. Oh, I also do freelance stuff, lots of freelance, videography, photography, print design. I try to do as little as possible, but there's always those fun projects. So I started my career a little bit. I'm gonna do it different than everyone else. You guys are gonna take a journey with me through my career, which is why we're here. So when I was a freshman, I was actually in the graphic design program at Herberger, and I got a job at Central Christian Church. I have no idea why they hired me. This was my first professional design. We can all sit and laugh. It didn't go anywhere. They all shut it down. But I got really blessed with having leaders who saw something in me and took the time to feed it and mentor me. So keep an eye out for that mentorship. It's so important. So from Central, I moved on, and I actually, with the help of the professors here, specifically Professor Dolan for this one, helped me get an internship at Midnight Oil Agency, which does theatrical display and movie posters. So if you've ever seen any display in a theater, you've seen their work. Phenomenal team there. It was the best job I had. The first time I'd ever gotten up and was excited to go to work. And after you do movie posters, you know, that's what you want to do. So I wanted to do movie posters. When I graduated, I came back and I built this portfolio. So this was a look at my first portfolio outside of college. And that's what I took when I went and did interviews. I sent this out to, gosh, like 80 different companies and got no bites. I was so frustrated. So I started working for a t-shirt shop and did laser engraving and stuff like that. But then from there, worked for Daystar International. And they're an off-road company. I got to build this brochure for the Jay Leno's garage, and we had a truck be on Jay Leno's garage, and that was really cool. From there, started working at Carrington College. At Daystar, I started to get outside of print and more into web stuff. I also did all the photography and product stuff. But then when I got to Carrington, I was very much web and UI UX focused. And to my dismay, started coding more. I feel bad for Professor Kersky and Pruitt, because you guys put so much effort into me, and I hated coding so much. I mean, and now I'm doing it. So when I got to Carrington College, if you want to go back one slide, we did new program pages. And the cool thing with that was that we created a user journey, and you can track that through kind of those bullets down there. We started with the hero of like, you're here, let's do this. And then here's some more information. Here's where you'll do this, and created that journey to get people excited about it, and got great performance off of that. And that was the whole purpose. The next one is we redid the navigation, and this one's so simple, but it was such a massive push at the time. So this was back before everyone had bottom navigation. I actually had to fight with senior management, not fight, but prove through beautiful design and statistics and measurements that this was going to work for us. And we saw over a 20% increase in traffic on mobile devices because of that. Next job was Leslie's Pool Supplies. While I was working there, I did a bunch of freelance stuff. And this is one of the projects. This Rondo actually goes into production next month. I've been working on this project for the past, gosh, feels like 4 years. I think it was 2 or 3. Branding, can design, print design, packaging, marketing, you name it, that was me. Really fun project that came to me from a guy who used to be a vice president at Coca-Cola and one of my mentors from a past job. And then this is where I work now, BrioStack. This is a diagramming project that we created. It's going through the software and being able to, as a technician or someone who's coming to your house, be able to draw out your house, get accurate measurements, place what we call stations, bait stations for pests, because we do pest control, be able to treat those on site, create this cool diagram, and have that embed into your service, so that the people in the office know exactly what those measurements are. They can calculate price accurately, and it's just boom, 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 you're done with the project. It's something that seems really simple. It was a lot of intricate pieces. The developers and I work really, really hand in hand. And it's been really cool to come into fruition. So that actually goes live next month as well. And this was my latest piece of freelance stuff. So I do a lot of volunteer work as a videographer and photographer, and I get to work with really cool teams. So I work with the owner of Motion Sickness Media, the owner of XYZ Media, and the owners of Hourglass Productions, and get to do some really cool video work, production work. We do live production stuff. So we helped record. So I ran one of the cameras for doing this shoot for 2911 Worship to be able to do a cool music video. And we're regularly doing a lot of stuff like
language, but I think that's kind of ridiculous. I agree with probably your sentiments on it. We actually have interns and we hire entry level that don't have experience. I think the point of an internship is all about education. And so that's something that we absolutely don't agree with, I guess. I know I've heard it is common. I think from the business standpoint, there's obviously a cost to having somebody coming in, taking time away from client work, from billable work. So I understand the commerce side of it, but I completely disagree. So advice to find the companies out there that don't require that, or talk about how your strengths as a designer make up for that lack of experience. When you write a cover letter, which I absolutely hate, and I don't require it, but I'll be honest, when people send something that actually has really relevant information about the job they're applying for, or the skills that they have that relate to that, it makes an impact. And so if you don't have the experience, explain that in a cover letter and why it doesn't matter, why you still would be right for the job.
Yeah. Thanks for that insight. As you can imagine, a lot of our folks are looking for jobs. And one of their things is about getting internships. So I'll give you a quick yes or no. Does the company you work for do internships? I know the answer to this.
We do. We bring in at least one intern every semester. And we share the internship description with ASU, NAU, and we're looking for a contact down in Tucson as well. I really try to focus in on supporting the Arizona community.
Yeah, does your company hire interns?
For our creative department, not at the moment, which is unfortunate, but is something that we would love to change.
All right. I believe we do, but I am actually going to confirm that with my boss because I had somebody ask me last week.
We are always accepting any creative or technical or designer person at Cahokia. So if you want to learn your skill sets through immersive learning, we're probably the place.
Great questions online. You can still enter your questions through Slido. Again, that number is 380-8493. The next one is about generalists and specialists. And as you know, throughout industry, it ebbs and flows, right? Sometimes the economy is really good and sometimes it isn't. And so what's your thoughts on being a generalist, knowing like a jack of all trades, or specializing? Is it important to do one or the other or both? Who would like to address that one? Yeah.
So I can kind of lean into this one only because my day job is being very technical. And so when you think about how to balance it, my creativity comes out in different ways. And actually, when I got the job and was asked to be a part of the team on the IT side to analyze an entire digital ecosystem that supported the creative department and the marketing departments and all their workflows, I sat there and I was like, well, if I am just a user in the system, I really can't change the system for better. So I need to be able to design the system so that it eventually meets all of our goals and all of the demands that digital experiences now call for. So when I had told her, I said, I can be most creative if I am behind the wheel. And so I will move over into IT. And she was so shocked. She was like, wow, okay, I did not expect that. But also it just means that as a designer, you have choice into what fields you want to go into. And you can also do multiple, like you don't have to pile it all into one job. If you want to be creative, you can go do freelance stuff. And I know all of us are doing freelance stuff that allows that creative expression. Then you can go be technical in a separate field and do that work. It's just amazing when it all comes together, and it's truly beautiful.
Awesome. Again, apologize for the weird hovering over and having the questions from Slido on my phone. This is not how I envisioned this would be, but it's working. So thank you so much for sticking in there. The next, a lot of questions about UX. The UX is one of the majors we have here, and it's one of the first in the nation to ever have a master's in UX, and coming online with our bachelor's in UX really soon. And we're seeing a very market. So while most of you are asking specifically about UX, it kind of applies when the market is flooded and there's high competition. What do you do to stand out? Anyone want to tackle that one? Yeah.
All right. It's hard. UX is hard because it's all analytics, right? It's hard to show your work and to be able to stand out in that stuff. And especially coming out of college, it's not like you have a ton in your portfolio or anything like that. You know, I've got, it's going to look ridiculous right now, but I have my print portfolio here, and it's crazy and it's big and it's nuts. But I'll tell you what, if you come to an interview with something printed out like this, you will stand out. If what you send them on the website has back-end code, because I guarantee you, as someone who works with developers, I'm looking in the back end of all the code that you do. If you do it on Squarespace, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you put that extra effort in and write your own like CSS and HTML, we'll see it and we recognize it. There's little tidbits like that you can do to really push yourself outside of it. Make sure that your resume and your portfolio, you've got some stuff. And if you don't have anything, go out and build something. I think before I had anything, I decided to grab Ciao, which is a gelato company, and build them a new logo and stuff and put that in my portfolio. So, and I know it's hard to say, I don't have any experience and I can't show that experience. It makes for late nights, but it will make the best out of your career to be able to do that stuff and stand out. On the UX side, being able to go in and say, hey, I ran this research and I built out this persona and I did all this stuff for you before you walk into an interview, that'll blow the interviewers away. It really will. As a hiring manager, I hired one of my designers who had absolutely no background in design. She got her master's in psychology. She was a developer beforehand, but she came and she was prepared like that. And that's what kind of hook, line, and sinker for us.
Awesome. So that brings us to an important question. What about burnout? You're working all the time and now you are working at school and you're making your portfolio, and in your spare time, you're redoing stuff and putting stuff into your portfolio. How do you deal with creative burnout? Julian, I'm looking at you. I don't know why.
For me, especially with like in-house, it's boundaries. When you have clients or you have your boss asking you to do certain things at certain times, like I have a wife and 2 kids, there's very limited time that I have in the evening to be doing freelance work or to be making changes to things. And so when I get home, my boss knows, like, if it's an absolute emergency, you can call me, but I'm not checking Slack. I'm not checking my phone for my emails for anything. That's part of the deal going in, is that I set boundaries for that, which avoids that creative burnout, because it's a real thing.
Yeah, I think we feel that as students and faculty as well. We have that burnout where we feel like we're working all the time, and setting boundaries is the best way to do that. And turning off your notifications is a really great way to save yourself and wake up and do it fresh tomorrow with answering those questions. So important. This is a question about software, so I'm going to ask all of it. I'm going to ask all of you to kind of go around and say, what's maybe the software that you go to every day? That's something, is where you're doing the bulk of your work software wise.
The bulk of my work is in Illustrator, Photoshop, and InDesign.
Jira. If you're going into UX, learn Jira. Jira, Confluence. We use Adobe XD a lot. I'm in Photoshop every once in a while, but not as much. And Figma would be another one for me. So if you're doing UI, UX, Figma and XD, but learn Jira, guys. Become a story pro.
For me, originally it was Illustrator. I'm a vector guy, logos and stuff like that, but I feel more time spent now is in Photoshop.
Since we're full service, we're pretty much in all of the Adobe Creative Suite, Illustrator, InDesign, Lightroom, Photoshop, XD. Trying to pick up Figma now, since my prediction is that Adobe Max next month, we're gonna learn that Figma is part of Creative Cloud, fingers crossed. So across the Adobe spectrum. And unfortunately, we do work a lot in PowerPoint. But when you work for corporate clients, they like to have things that they can design themselves. So you work a lot in PowerPoint. or Keynote or things that they can edit. Oh, that is creepy.
I know. I apologize. I'm being a creepster, not trying to. Thanks again for being flexible on this. So one of the questions that a lot of folks are having is advice on kind of starting your career. And so I'm going to phrase it this way, and I'm lumping together a bunch of questions so that we can get as many as we can in there. But if you had to go back and tell your just graduated self, just going to get, well, the job you're going to get now, whichever one you choose, what is your advice to yourself that you wish you could go back and give to yourself? And I'll start this way and we'll go down.
Okay. I love this question. I obviously changed careers a lot, but the one thing that, and it kind of touches to the question earlier, thinking about a generalist or kind of niching into a certain area, do what you love doing, figure it out, and then really stick with it and go with it. I for a long time thought I had to do this one thing and get really good and be the best illustrator or the best photo editor. And I love doing all of it. And I figured out how to cheat and create a company where we get to do all of it. And we get to work with a small number of clients that let us work on each of those projects. So figure out what it is that you love doing. And it might be light some years and it might be really busy some years, but if you love what you're doing, you're going to enjoy it no matter what. So go ahead and stick with it. Don't feel like you have to do what somebody else is doing and is successful at.
For me, it would be, I mean, you have your internships and you have your kind of entry level jobs, which kind of will help. But get out there, find communities. I mean, there's not only just like AIGA and whatnot, but there's all of those creative communities. You meet those people know people that are looking for somebody. And I've gotten multiple jobs that way of like meeting people and they're like, hey, this guy's looking has an entry level job opening, or do you guys know a photographer? And then you're able to refer somebody. So you build that community, you get to know these people. And that was a great way to maybe find the next gig, or forever gig, or just the next client.
I actually wrote down some stuff for this. I had a coach who told me ABL. And so if you're in sales or if you've watched The Office, you know that ABC is always be closing. ABL is always be learning. We're in an industry where you're going to be learning the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. That's what you're going to be. So be a sponge, embrace it, just be excited about it. Go out and learn that stuff. I love that you just went into the IT and you're like, I can do this. I can just go grab it by the horns and take it and do that. If you're curious about UI design and you haven't touched Figma, go learn Figma. If you're curious about what it's like to run a business, go take a course on running a business, to do a Udemy course or do something like that, and go to some conferences, go learn that stuff. I told you I wanted to be a print designer. I thought for sure movie posters, that was the rest of my career, never going to do anything. And then I got into the thing I didn't want to do, which was development, and then leading developers, and now product management. And it's like, if you told me back when I was with where you guys are that you're going to be a manager of product managers and a product team, I would have told you were nuts. So soak it all up and just figure out what you love as you go, because that's going to change too.
I will resonate all of what they said, because I think that's how I've launched into all of my careers, is being a avid learner. I need to learn everything just to understand it, but also building community and really engaging those communities with my insight, as well as like collaboration. I think a big deal of being a designer is being able to collaborate in different spaces. So if you're able to collaborate with your peers or like-minded people, or maybe people that challenge you, because it's those challenges that really will elevate your skill sets to a whole nother level. So whenever you have an opportunity to collaborate on an idea that hasn't been done before or needs the shine of light, right? Jump on it and be that person that puts it out there. We need more innovators. We need more designers that are on the forefront of creating new things that also have that balance of human-centered design. So, yeah.
The next question has to do with your portfolio. Obviously, one of the things our students are worried about is their portfolio, and their question is, how do you prioritize what's in your portfolio? Do you put chronological? Do you put schoolwork first, or personal work first, or your best work? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, goodness. I don't use a portfolio anymore. So I guess that's that level, right? Where people just know you for the work that you do and they know that you will just do amazing things. So what you really want to do when you build, and when I was building out my portfolio, was showing my different skill sets. It wasn't just about the look and the feel and the colors and how you were able to build that. It was also about behind the scenes. So I would always incorporate a photo of my team, and then also like what part I took in that project, and then what it looked like at the end. So it's really just creating that story. And so every page that they go through, they're learning something about you, and how you learned about it becomes more engaging, but that's how I went about it.
Yeah, that's so good. Unique touched on a really good point of like be diverse and show all your skills. So you see the stuff that I threw up there. It's everything from print design to video to all sorts of stuff to give you guys a breadth of the stuff that I do. My biggest thing would be show me what you're passionate about. And build me an experience. So going back to the UX designers asking about how do I get a job? If you're going to present a portfolio, build an experience, because that's what you're doing. You're doing experience design. So build me some cool experience that I will never forget. The portfolio that I showed you guys up there, I actually went to apply at a GoDaddy job, and the hiring manager said, you totally applied at Fender. We all talked about that portfolio that you showed at Fender for years. I mean, that's what you want. Even if you don't get the job, be memorable. So if you do the stuff and show the stuff you're passionate about, the stuff you're excited about, that's going to come out in your portfolio. It's going to come out in your interview, and it's going to come out as confidence in your career.
Yeah, I mean, a portfolio is something that you're going to be looking at all the time, and how do I update it, and what do I get rid of, and what the new things am I putting in there. For me, it's what makes you happy, like what projects that you look at and that you have great memories on, or you're like, that killed it on this thing, and it's something that you're excited to show. It might be something from 10 years ago that you looked at and you're like, this thing still sparks something for me, and there was still a journey in there, and it's still going to stay in the portfolio. There's work that I've done that I think is really cool for a job, but it just doesn't hit the spot, and then doesn't make me really want to show it for various reasons. But if it doesn't check those boxes, then it shouldn't go in there.
I have the answer that everybody's going to hate, because I disagree only for our company and how I hire. Yes, build out a great portfolio, but record your work, keep it there for your own files. When you're applying for a job, look at that company's work, look at if it's an agency, look at their website, what kind of work are they doing? And that's the work you're going to show them in your portfolio, because that's what they're looking for. They need somebody to hire. They want to hire somebody to do that work, right? So I don't need to see, we don't do UX. I don't need to see the UX project. Maybe if you don't have anything else, use that and then tell me about how it's relevant to what we do. But it's going to take a little extra work, but customize it for the job that you're going after, and make sure that it's relevant to what those people are looking to hire. Again, not the best advice in every situation, but definitely for us, and I think for other hiring managers that are looking for something very specific, tailor your portfolio for that.
Yeah, and I don't think you necessarily disagree either. I think it really depends on what you're looking for. And when you're building out your portfolio that you're going to send to folks, you're going to build it out with those things, those projects that you love most. But when you go to a specific job, tailor it. Absolutely. Good example, we just hired for instructional aides for GIT 215, and the two questions I wanted addressed were, do you know HTML and CSS? And 2, are you available from 9 to 10:30? And of 187 applicants, 5 told me. 5. So guess who got the job? One of those 5, 2 of those 5 actually. So that's a really good point. It depends on what you're looking for and what you do. And also, we're all different. And all the advice that you got up here is all valid because we're all looking at it from a different way and we're all coming at it from different directions. And that's exactly why you want to hear from more and more and more designers. And if you go, that conflicts, I don't know. Well, it's harder than that. It depends, right? So you got some great advice tonight. You stuck in, even though the whole thing was just tech riddled with errors, but I thank you so much for sticking in there, especially the panelists who had to have me creeping around behind them this evening. And online, thank you so much for sticking in there when the audio wasn't very good and the video is not working at all. So good times. I want to thank each one of you panelists. Thank you so much for spending your evening with us. This is what students say made an impact on their career. I'm not going to be offended that it's not us, like the instructors. All right. It's okay. This is the stuff that they say, this helped me, this changed my mind. So you've made a huge impact tonight, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much, everyone online and in person.